Welcome to a sports betting podcast from pregame.com for the week of October 15th, 2009. I'm your host, RJ Bell. I'm joined by Marco D'Angelo, 30 years in the business, Vegas runner, a genuine professional bettor here in Vegas. This is segment 1 of 5, big game preview, college football, Oklahoma, Texas. First, let's go to Vegas runner. Give us a line report on the game.
Okay, when the line opened up at Chris, who opened the line for the following week, they opened it as low as Texas -1 and the over-under 51.5. Right away, wise guys let them know that line was too short, and by the time all the other books opened up shop, they had opened it at 3. Since that time, we're looking at 3.5 and 51. So it's been hit a couple times.
So you're saying that -1 might have been available for an hour or so.
Yeah, and I'm sure they took very little amounts of money on that, but
which is interesting because you'll see a move from 1 to 3 and think that's huge
millions
money.
Went on it, right?
But they're so uncertain of the opening number of the odds maker when the wise guys even bet a limit, one limit bet or even less, they'll move the line significantly.
Yeah, so then everyone else moves it on air, so they don't even have to end up booking action. And they opened it up 3 there everywhere else, and since then we've seen some Texas action. It's gone to 3.5, which is pretty significant.
Okay, and what's interesting is last week we actually, ESPN did a little piece that featured pregame.com in which they were talking about the fact that the odds makers' numbers are so soft. Apparently, the books are moving these numbers so fast on very little money, maybe tens of thousands of dollars. Very possibly could have been the amount that moved that from 1 to 3. So we're talking about a few limit bets at most.
Absolutely, and the first couple sharps that hit it, and that was it. They're not going to take more.
All right, so Marco, so we actually have a pick on this game. Each of us do an official pick on one of the games this week. Vegas runner, you're going to have a pick on this game.
Yes, I am.
So Marco, tell me the one factor in your mind that the bettors most need to focus on in this game.
Well, to me, is if you think Texas is 10.5 points better than they were last year in this game. That's the difference, because last year, this game, Oklahoma was a 7-point favorite.
Now, this is on a neutral field, the same place every year.
Absolutely.
So it's a 1-to-1 ratio.
So you're looking at, do you really think there's 10.5 point difference between these two teams from last year to this year?
Do you?
I don't think there's that much, no.
All right.
I think the odds makers agree with you, Marco, in that, and I think
by opening the game at 1.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that's the key point in this game is who do you support? Who do you think's right? Because the AP poll has Oklahoma at 16, 18 at USA Today, and the odds makers have Oklahoma ranked number 5 in the country. So there's a big discrepancy between public perception and the odds maker / bookmaker. All
right, so let's get right to it. This is your official pick for the week?
Yes, it is.
Official free pick. Hit us with the pick and tell us why.
I like the under in this game. I think there's a lot of value in playing this game under. I know when you see Big 12.
Now, repeat the number again?
51. All right. It's 51. Open 51.5. It's down to 51. I say get this right away. Even though
all right, so first off, you're saying we're taping on Wednesday here. You're saying you look at this number as it's likely to go down.
Yeah, I think the wise guys are going to steam this one for sure.
All right, and that's something that we talk about a lot is if you only bet on game day, you only have one number to bet into, though in theory it can vary during game day. But you got 1 day of variation. Now, if you're smart, you have 3-4 outs. Maybe it's offshore, maybe it's local, whatever it is. You have 3 or 4 outs on 1 day. Now, think about that. So that's 3 or 4 in 1 day. Now, if you actually are willing to bet early in the week, let's say midweek, then game day, though that's an artificial saying early, mid, late, but let's just put them into 3 categories. You can now bet in 3 different categories. If you have 4 books, you have 12 different numbers to consider. The guy who only has 1 out on Saturday of a college game day has one number to consider. So there's 2 ways to get the best number. One is to think about betting early, middle, or game day. and you want to have as many outs as you reasonably can. Now, one thing you can do is if you go to pregameaction.com, you can check out all the trusted deals or all the best deals from the trusted books if you want to see about getting more outs, and there's bonuses involved. All right, so you're saying and the line and the movement of the line is one of your strong suits, your ability to judge the market. You look at this as likely to go down.
Yeah, correct. And even though I think that the betting market, the public, come Saturday is going to bet this game over, I think that's the only thing that's going to keep it around the number 50. Otherwise, it will get steamed under. We're looking at a defensive battle here. You see Big 12 teams, and right away you think offense, but these two teams have been getting it done with defense. You're looking at number 1 and number 3 against the run in the country, top 30 against the pass. So both these teams getting it done with D, and I think this game will be no different. Both are going to have trouble running against each other, so I think you're going to see some passing, and with passing comes the 3 and outs, the mistakes, and I see some punts. I'm looking at this game under the total.
So looking at last year's numbers a little bit, Marco made a good point about the point spread, is Oklahoma only rushed for 48 yards last year.
Correct.
In the game they lost. So now the question is, you got Bradford, who is back from an injury, and the question is can this team as a passing team be anything close to what it was last year? Because you were saying, are they actually 10 points different? And what was the line last year?
7.
Oklahoma was -7.
And 57.
Okay, and then you're saying, all right, 7 plus is 3 more. Okay, so now so my question is, how good is this Oklahoma team with its current configuration of Bradford at quarterback versus BYU game where he was only there a half versus the Miami game where he wasn't there?
Well, the fact that they got him into the lineup last week was huge. That gets the rust out, gets his rhythm back in, and he pushed hard to play last week, and he wanted to be ready for it. Let's remember, this guy could have went to the NFL at the end of last year. He opted to stay. He believed that this team was a national championship caliber team.
Now, doesn't that make his emotional state be precarious, and that his goals have not been met, and they're not going to be met? The best, they're probably, even if they win this game and win out, they probably won't even make a BCS, or maybe they will, maybe they won't, but it'd be borderline. They're going to be playing in the Holiday Bowl, even if they win out, perhaps.
Well, possibly, but consider that their 2 losses came to BYU and Miami, and they both were by a point, so they didn't get disgraced in either game.
Yeah, so I guess if they win out, they would be the Big 12 champs.
Right,
So,
and you got that extra game where you play in the Big 12 championship that definitely helps those schools. I look for Oklahoma. I don't disagree with you at all about the under. The only thing I'm surprised that you said bet it now, because it generally rule of thumb is if you like the under,
wait till
game day, because the public's going to bet.
So
I just think that the wise guys are going to see what we've been seeing, and they're going to take
if
advantage of a
if
51.
it's Wednesday and they haven't bet it yet, is it potential? Because there's really,
because with totals, a lot of locals, I'd say 80%, probably don't put out totals till Thursday or Friday. So if you're going to want to unload on a total, that happens mostly. You'll see if you look at the line screens. Friday afternoons, them totals are moving 2-3 points. That's when most of it comes down.
All right, so this is interesting. Is you're saying that the wise guy, people think of locals and they often think they're making $50 bets or smaller bets, but the wise guys have their locals where they can bet many thousands of dollars.
Sure.
They're holding the totals back till later in the week, and they don't want to reveal themselves what they're doing until they can get as much money down as possible.
Exactly.
That's interesting. All right. Okay, we got 35 seconds, 40 seconds. Any other points that the bettor should be thinking about Vegas Runner?
I just think they tipped their hand in how the odds makers think this game's going to go. Last year we saw 80 points scored. The total was 57, but yet they brought this one out at 51.5, a touchdown almost lower. And both teams this year have been putting up some points. There's really no reason for that big of a decrease when it went that high over the total last year. I think this one, my true line in this one, believe it or not, was 47.5. So I felt going in I had 4 points in edge to my side.
And that's 4 points on a total is enough to hit 56, 57%.
Correct. That's how I looked at it.
All right, good stuff. Official pick. Okay, now, next up is going to be our second college football preview. We're going to look at Notre Dame USC. And remember, you can get all of our videos at pregame.tv, or if you want to download and listen, go to iTunes and search for pregame.com.